So, yep. Hello, welcome to the first part of the podcast. Just to tell you, this is just a quick interview with Neil Reid from East Riding College. Hope you all enjoy it, and I'll see you at the end of part 1 just to review it and talk about part 2. So I'll see you then. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the first part, and I'll see you in section 2 of the video. Thank you, and enjoy.
Hello, everybody.
Right, so it's recording now. So
I met up with Neil Rudd at East Riding College to talk about his experiences of working with people with autism. So hello, Neil, welcome.
Hi Ben, how you doing?
I'm all right. What are your experiences with of working with autism?
So I've worked in education for about 5 years now, and throughout I've always supported students with educational needs, and autism is one of those. And so I've supported in a primary school, I've supported in an independent school, and now I'm obviously supporting in a lot of the students with autism.
What qualifications do you need to work with autistic people?
There's lots of different qualifications. Yeah. They do one at the college. They do a level 2 certificate of understanding autism.
Yeah.
There's other qualifications such as difficulties.
Yeah.
And they go right from level 2 up to a BA honours degree or even a master's degree.
That's cool.
At the level that I'm working at, I think a level 2 is probably the minimum requirement. So I think some establishments would employ someone who has experience, and they look for a particular type of person. So they might have a lot of experience but not a qualification. So I think it would depend on which establishment you work at. If you're the type of person that the establishment feels you have the skills and the knowledge and experience to work with people with autism, then that could open the door for you.
What coping mechanisms do you have with autistic people?
You need to be patient. You need to be calm. You need to be approachable. You need to be understanding as well, because the individual anyway. And that's exactly the same. So every person works with either with autism or without. Everyone is different. So part of the coping mechanisms for me are to build up a relationship with the student and get to know them and how they work and how they understand things, how they see things, what their hobbies and interests are. So that's a good coping mechanism.
Do you know anyone who has autism? So can you tell me about them?
I know lots of people with autism. I can't obviously
tell you because of confidentiality.
I can't give you any names. But I work with one individual who has autism, and he's very hard working, he's very diligent, he's very focused, very enthusiastic, and he's very keen, and he's a great person to work with, and we have a good relationship, and he feels he can talk to me, and I understand his needs and he doesn't need a lot of support because he is very focused.
What are the advantages and disadvantages of working with people with special?
There's lots of advantages. The advantages are it's wonderful making a difference to somebody's life. Whether they've got special needs or whether they haven't. It's what makes me come to work every day, making a difference to somebody's life. And enabling them to develop and progress and gain qualifications and improve their life. I mean, it's the advantage. Disadvantages, it can be quite at times, and there can be periods where you feel you aren't making as much progress as you'd like, but that's where previously mentioned where patience comes in. You might have little dips where you're not making much progress, but then a week later you'll realise actually you are. So there's not many disadvantages really.
What's your favourite part about working with people with special needs?
My favourite thing would be, like I just said, really making a difference to their lives, getting to know the students, building up a relationship so that it's a positive relationship, and becoming someone who they trust and they respect, and likewise I their trust and I trust them, and that is really the favourite part really, and seeing them develop and seeing them progress and seeing them pass the qualifications.
Neil, thank you very much for joining me today.
Hope you all enjoyed part 1. Thank you for watching. It was a good interview with Neil. So now we move on to part 2, and I loved it so much. And now we move on to part 2. This interview is with Andrew Kelsey of East Riding College, talking to him about his experience of autism and all his experiences of autism, and discovering more about autism from his experiences. I hope you all enjoy it, and I'll see you reviewing part 2 at the end of part 2 into part 3, and then we'll move on into part 3. So hope you all enjoy it. Thank you for watching. Hello, I'm here with Andrew Kelsey to ask him a few questions about his experiences with people with autism. So what are your experiences at working with people with autism?
Well, firstly, I've got to say they're quite positive. I've worked for 20 years in further education, and a lot of the students I've worked with have autism or Asperger's syndrome, which is a moderate version of autism. And it's usually quite positive. You learn about people, you learn to understand people's differences, and you really learn not to make assumptions about what people can and can't do, and treat everybody as an individual.
What qualifications do you need to work with people with autism?
Well, to do the job that I do, you need a level 2 qualification in being basically that teach you how to be a support worker. You also need some kind of awareness training in disability awareness and autism. I'm actually doing a course now, a level 2 course in understanding autism, which will give me a certificate. It's a very good course produced by our child studies departments.
Do you know anyone who has autism, and if so, can you tell me about them?
Yes, I do know lots of people who've got autism. I can't tell you too much about them because of confidentiality, obviously, some of the students here, students I've worked with in the past. There's one lad I'm thinking of who he just chatted all the time and worried about everything. And we had to sometimes tell him to stop talking, get on with his work, stop worrying, and trying to get him to understand how to work things out himself. Eventually, he left the college and has got settled in quite a good job that, as far as I know, he's still working at.
What are the advantages and disadvantages of working with people with special needs / autism?
As I said in my first answer to the first question, you get to know how to understand people that are very different to yourself, very varied and complex needs, but it helps you to try and think about other people and think as they think, or try and understand people more. And we live in a world that likes to think they're good at that, but they're not really. Disadvantages, I remember one student in particular is quite mature, he got diagnosed later on in life, and he had his cuddle list of people that he liked, and if you weren't on that list, you had no chance with him. And sometimes it can get frustrating, you think, why can't you just get on and do this, or why can't you work in such a way? And just trying to remember those inclusive principles and that everyone's different is not always easy. Anything else?
What's your favourite part about working with people with special needs?
Seeing them achieve and being enthusiastic about education and going on to progress and get to know people and just seeing them have a good day.
Okay, Andrew, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's a wrap. That's because I have autism. I have autism spectrum disorder, and autism is very interesting and exploratory, and I think it's very good. So here's part 3 with Kate Forges. Hope you all enjoy it. See you in the last part, the review part of the whole podcast. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the last part. Thank you. Hello, welcome to the podcast. I am here with Kate Forges, talking about a bit of autism. So shall we begin? Hello, Kate.
Hello.
What about her experiences with autistic people? What are your experiences of working with autistic people?
Well, I've got experiences in 2 different ways. So in one way, I've been, in my role, I've been as learning support. I've had a particular experience in that way, but I'm also like now a tutor, so I've had different experiences. But I think one experience that I'd like to pick up on, which I've encountered in both roles, is about the need for keeping things the same and regular. So I've had interesting encounters when we've had difficulties with roomings, And I often find that my learners who I've worked with, it's been very difficult when we've suddenly had to change rooms, and that they found that change quite difficult to deal with. And I've had this particularly when I was like working with a particular group, and we was used to September to December, we was used to the same room. We came back after Christmas, and all our rooms had been changed, and we didn't know. And was hunting to try these rooms, and I think they found that quite distressing, and it was difficult for them to then get their heads around that now was permanently in these different rooms.
What qualifications do you need to work with autistic people?
I think it's more about skills and qualities. You've just got to like have sort of an understanding, and you've got to and appreciate the different needs. But I mean, there are often like here, there are courses that we often take, like level 2 autism courses, to help us with that, to help us with understanding what sort of the needs and experiences that learners with autism go through.
Yeah. What coping mechanisms do you have with autistic people?
I try to make sure that things, I tell them things very clearly. So like I say, I have had it where the things with rooms, where I've like, if I know in advance, I try to prepare them for things like that.
Yeah.
And I try to do a lot in terms of preparing them. This is what we will be doing this week. This is what we'll be doing, just so that they know and they're prepared.
Yeah. Do you know anyone who has autism? So can you tell me about them?
I know quite a few people with autism, so it's difficult to pick out one, and they're all different. It's difficult, isn't it? Because you can't say, oh, someone with autism will be like this, because all the different people I know with autism are so different.
Yeah.
And they're different in terms of like the difficulties they encounter, the different in terms of their personality and how it affects them, the different in terms of how they can overcome it. Because a few years ago I worked with a learner he was doing BA media, and he was quite very conscious of how his difficulties impacted on him. So what he used to do is particularly he talked to me about eye contact. And he said that he actually worked on it to try and help him better develop his social skills. So he was quite high functioning. He was quite aware of how his difficulties impacted on him. And he actually consciously made these efforts to try and improve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what are the advantages and disadvantages of working with people with autism/special needs?
I think the disadvantages for me is that personally that maybe I'll do something without realising, and then maybe not appreciating that way won't work for that learner. So it's more like I think sometimes you've just got to be on the ball in thinking, will this work for all my learners? And sometimes you do something and you think, actually that's not worked for that learner because they've not been able to look at it that way because of the difficulty. So I think it's sometimes you've just got to really, the disadvantage is really you've just got to be really conscious when you're planning like to work with that learner, how you're going to make it better for them. I mean, the advantages I'd say is that, are just the same advantages. Every learner's is different, and every learner's like, it's good to just work with them to get the best for them.
What's your favourite part about working with people with special needs/autism?
I think there's a lot of it is to do with motivation, that I think learners without difficulties don't appreciate how much harder it is for someone with difficulties to sort of get on in the same way. But I found a lot of learners with difficulties then, because it is harder, that we do see a lot of like higher motivation to overcome.
Yeah. Great questions and answers, and also it was a great podcast. I thought there was a lot of good questions there. I thought she gave some brilliant answers, and I hope it. And now I feel discovered a bit more about autism. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, and as I always say at the end of my podcasts / videos, that's a wrap.